Yo, 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 yo. Twice daily. That's that's it's even better. Twice daily is even better. So, what I should be doing is working in Blender to complete some models here, but I'm just looking over some of these architecture schools and firms on Facebook, and it's inspiring. But the one thing that came to mind is that I mean, given the cryptocurrency market and given the abstract dimensions of development and products and research and development that are currently underway, I just think that it's worth mentioning from my perspective. A long time ago, I just became convinced that public infrastructure and private infrastructure, but more so public infrastructure, just because it tends to be more accessible. It tends to be more yeah, a substantial public offering, has real tangible value. I mean, logically, if we develop something like a new cryptocurrency token or a protocol or something like that, or a piece of software, a new software platform, it doesn't, to my mind, have that inherent, tangible, relatable value that public and publicly available private infrastructure does. So, yeah, just thinking about that as a general philosophical principle. I mean, Slack, like thinking about the Slack platform as one example. I mean, currently the valuation of Slack is, let's see, or the market capitalization of Slack is $26 billion. I remember when it was at $5 billion. Way back. I can't even get a real legitimate max chart here, can I? Anyways. The market capitalization of Slack is impressive. So, I've never used Slack. I suppose I should before I make a comment about it, but I just think there's a lot of things that can be facilitated via email or via other methods that, you know, bring into question the real inherent viability and value of things like Slack. I suppose I should use Slack more extensively before I make that kind of a judgment call. I just think that for a $26 billion valuation, it should be offering something pretty substantial over what can be facilitated via email or other methods of data transfer and interaction. In comparison to, let's say, a public library, like the Vancouver Public Library. As a work of architecture and as a physical instantiation of value. Yeah, it's just that. I mean, let me know if you have any thoughts as to me being either correct or incorrect about that. But anybody in the world, if as long as they're in Canada, can access these facilities and use these facilities on their own accord. And there's something inherently deeply valuable about that, as far as I'm concerned. Whereas Slack, and the ultimate value of the Vancouver Public Library, I would say, it's probably a couple $100 million, at least, in a monetary sense. And then the facilities management and then the jobs that it provides. So there you go. There's a general philosophical thought about comparison of tangible and inherent value. So I just think there's a lot of importance being placed on very abstract products, very abstract things within the global market, in comparison to things that are more traditional. And everybody likes new things. They like innovation because it's exciting. It's exciting to think about things like cars driving themselves or robots or genetic research. But it's another thing to recognize the traditional modes being able to facilitate things fairly efficiently. And that also gets brought into question. Are these traditional modes actually as viable as we think? I mean, the justice system and the court system, for one, is something that I think a lot about. So it seems as though policy, legislation, and just the general tendency of an institution that is preceded and is preeminent, like the justice system, is reluctant to full implementation of efficiency through technology. I think like the justice system is reluctant to actually pursue technology because in a way it leads to its own obsolescence in that many of the processes of and I'm neck deep in this personally, many of the processes of litigation, of the examination of facts and whatnot are wrapped up in a capitalist bureaucratic system of the justice system, which is inherently essentially what it is. And is there any validity, is there any truth to the fact that technology has something to offer in the way of expediting matters of justice? Only if we choose to make it so, as far as I'm concerned. Anyways, back to this architecture. What else have we got in here? The graduate school design, the Harvard Graduate School Design. Honestly, if you have time to check out the Harvard Graduate School of Design, their YouTube channel is amazing. It's absolutely one of my favorite YouTube channels of all time. I haven't been watching it as much lately. I used to watch it all the time. But yeah, if you have time, check out the Harvard Graduate School of Design YouTube channel. Because it's important to have a balance. Like, obviously, it's nice to kick back and chill with PewDiePie sometimes. But there's a balance. There's a balance between PewDiePie and all that fun, and games and gaming and Twitch and whatnot, and refined intellectual thought. And I think if we can pursue the optimization of the balance between those two things, which is what I'm trying to do, right? Because I'll acknowledge on the one side, a lot of dedication will lead to that intellectual refinement that would allow one to effectively navigate dimensions of such serious matters like law or architecture or government. On the flip side, I can acknowledge that on some level it's just boring, right? Like I don't blame kids for saying, "Hey, that's boring." You know, I just want to be Lil Uzi Vert, and it works for Lil Uzi. So yeah, I would give props to Lulu Lovely. She's definitely, I say Lulu Lovely is my favorite Twitch streamer. I watch Daltouche, Lulu Lovely, Shiv FPS, and the one thing that I do when I, like, let's say I want to watch some Apex, I try to do this. If I go to, like, you know, the Apex, I try to look at the least popular first, eh? It used to well, they've switched the platform. They used to let me look at the least popular by broadcasts, by uploads, by collections. That's interesting. They've just now changed the platform. I updated my Twitch app, and it used to say sorted by popular, but it should say least popular first. So they've changed that. So now I can't look at the least popular, because I want to look at the least popular. I want to look at the fat kid who has got no viewers, who's playing Apex, who's getting smashed. They used to let me do that. Why would they change that? Bring that back. Twitch, I want to see the least popular first. That's what I want.